His Blackstar album in the Cocoa House. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Donny McCaslin. We just arrived, came with the same flight from Copenhagen, in fact.
Yes.
I forgot my laptop in the tax-free shop. And it's 5 minutes since you went to the hotel and checked in.
Yes.
Yes. It's a busy life.
It's the life I've chosen.
Yeah, it is. And why did you choose a small plot of land for your last album? Because that is a specific song, isn't it?
Yeah, I think when I was listening to it, it's so open in the beginning. On the original version, there's a full minute of the band jamming, essentially, before David comes in with the vocal. So I think I was drawn to the openness, and I thought I could hear us doing something with that, you know. And the melody is so strong when he comes in, and I guess those were the two things that drew me to it. It felt like we could do so many things with it, and I guess the other thing is his version, I feel, is pretty avant-garde. It's from the record The Outside, if you know that record. Great record, but you know, it's an edgy record. And I felt like our version is more sort of electro, kind of dancey or something. So it's just a tune that felt very malleable stylistically.
I think it's a great way of doing it. But that's not the only one you are doing on your new album. There's another song as well, isn't there? And this monumental piece from Low.
Yeah, Warsaw. And that one was, we were about to play a week in New York City, and it was just about 10 days after David had passed away. And we were just talking in the band about what would be the best way to pay tribute to him. And, you know, at that point, to play anything from Blackstar felt totally inappropriate. And Jason, keyboard player Jason Linder, suggested Warsaw. So we tried it on the sound check the first night, and then played it every set of every night. That whole week, we would play 2 shows, and we played it every set. And, you know, it was a really intense time emotionally for so many people. You know, not just myself, but it was a really difficult time. And having the opportunity to play that song was really great, because it was a way to kind of channel a lot of the grief and a lot of the feelings into a musical context, and to be able to present it to people, many of whom were also grieving, you know, the loss. So I felt I have to record this, you know, as a tribute to him.
That's a great choice. I've already told my wife, you see, that in my funeral, Warsaw should be played very loud. But the band you have with you on your new record, is it the same that we're playing with David Bowie on Blackstar?
Yes, so that band had been in existence for 4 or 5 years before I met David. And I worked with a composer, Maria Schneider, and she was collaborating with David on Sue. Yeah. And I guess at one point he was describing to her what he heard for the rhythmic underpinning of the piece, okay? And she said, hey, that sounds like something, you know, you should listen to this. And she played him a record of mine called Casting for Gravity with my band, because it has this drum and bass electronica kind of thing. And then she suggested to him that he do something with me, and it kind of went from there.
Yeah, you started talking about Maria Schneider, and so she's the starting point for you getting into the recordings.
Yes.
But could you tell us a little bit more about that process and
Absolutely.
how it occurred?
So this is in 2014, and it's in the spring of 2014, and she called me to say that she was meeting with David to work on this piece, and her normal, the drummer who plays in her band could not be there for the recording. So she described the rhythmic thing to me. I said, you should use Mark Juliana, the guy in my band. He's perfect for this. So I was, giving her feedback that way. And then she played him the record, and then I guess he liked it, and I guess he bought it or something, and then he emailed her and said, hey, they're playing in New York City. Let's go. So Maria brought him to a club called the 55 Bar. It's a very small club. It's like a third of the size of this place. Very small. And that was June 1st of 2014, and they came, and I could kind of see him out of the corner of my eye, but I tried not to look. Because I was a little, because I knew already at that point that she had been saying to him, you should really do something with Donny's band, and she had been really advocating, and I didn't want to think too much about it. I just wanted to think about the music, So they were there, and then a week later, but I didn't meet him, and a week later we had the first rehearsal for Maria's piece. So Maria has like a large ensemble with like 5 woodwinds and 4 trombones and 4 trumpets. It's a big band. But for the first workshop, it was just myself and a trombone player, Mark on drums, bass player, Maria, Tony Visconti, and David. So that's when I met him for the first time. And we spent about 4 hours rehearsing this piece, and Maria was leading the rehearsal, and he asked me for my contact information. At some point, he asked me for my email address, my phone number, so I wrote it down in his book. And I think that night, he emailed me and said that he said how much fun he had at the rehearsal with Maria. And he said a thing he had a great sense of humor. And my first glimpse into that was in this first email. He said something like, I haven't had as much fun since I had my heart attack. I was like, oh my gosh, David Bowie just emailed me, and he just emailed me, this. It was so funny. But he also sent me an MP3 of a song, and said that he'd like to record 2 or 3 songs with my band. And that's how it started. That was about June 9th or 10th of 2014.
And the recordings finally started in the next year?
In the beginning of, January of 2015. So we met again a couple weeks after that to rehearse again with Maria. And then we recorded Sue in July. And I could tell you a little anecdote about that which I think was really amazing. So when we recorded Sue, it was the big band, and David and Tony Visconti were in the control booth listening. And, it was 5 hours, 6 hours from the time we started until we had finished and gotten the piece done. It's about a 9-minute song, if you've heard it. And, Maria's a perfectionist, so just getting everything together in the band. So it's done, okay? And I have a gig to go to, but I'm also going to play a solo. So before doing that, they put down what's called a scratch vocal. So a scratch vocal is when you're recording and the vocalist sings just so it's there and you can hear it and then you can play around it. Does that make sense? So David comes out after 6 hours, put a microphone, and he doesn't sing no warm up. Often with singers it's, me, 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 and so there was hardly any of that. He just sort of said a few things, and they started the recording. And Sue, if you've heard it, it's a real tour de force vocally. And so he does it in one pass, one take, and then maybe they fix one little thing, and then quick, I come out, and I play these long solos over it, and the trombone player, Ryan Keberly, we both take turns playing together, playing over the song, and then gone, and I go to my gig. So the next time I hear Sue is like September when it comes out, and the vocal, you hear, that's the scratch vocal that he did. So in other words, after sitting there for 6 hours and listening, David basically came out and just sang the vocal like that with no vocal warm-up, which is astonishing.
Yeah.
And so that was my kind of, that's what I experienced with him the first time of recording, and then it was really interesting to see how that translated into making Blackstar.
Yeah. Talking about first takes, he has this rumor about always doing the first or second take or something like that. Did that happen as well with the recordings for Blackstar?
Yes, it did, mostly. Yeah, he was very, let's see, how do I just, it just all happened really seamlessly. Part of it was that the band is very good, and we're like strong musicians and stuff, so we were prepared. So there wasn't any time like wasted. It was all just kind of got recording really quick, and everything was first or second take. Maybe Sue, the new version of Sue on Blackstar, that took a while because we were experimenting with different forms of the song. And actually, that's one where I said, because Maria's version, if you've heard it, it's very orchestral, right? There's the horns and the trombones, and it's like this grand thing. So I said, well, why don't we try to do the opposite and make this a real drum and bass thing featuring your voice and drum and bass. And then, he was game for it, and then we tried, I was cueing the different sections, and it wasn't really, it wasn't really working with the feel of the melody. So we went back to the form, essentially, of the Maria version, but just much more stripped down and really featuring the bass and drums and David.
Yeah.
So that one, 5 or 6 takes.
Do we have that track? Should we listen to that? Because I think that is one of the more powerful and great.
And some he sent me what he called placeholder lyrics for, so I think not complete. Like, for example, the song Lazarus had a different name initially. I can't remember. I think it was called The Hunger.
The Hunger.
Yeah, and I had these lyrics, and I was really trying to learn the music as deeply as I could. So I was reading through the lyrics, and but I feel like I don't gravitate towards trying to understand lyrics as much as I gravitate towards an emotional reaction to what's happening musically. So even though I was looking at the lyrics, I really still focused on what I was hearing on the demo. And then when we were recording it, it was really just, I was really focused on him and what I felt he was putting out there, the way he was singing, the energy, the emotion that was coming from him, and I was just trying to react to that, and there was a kind of a back and forth going on.
Yeah. But Lazarus, this track is because Blackstar is not the only thing he left. There are two kind of requiems after him, isn't there? There is the musical as well, called Lazarus.
Yeah.
I happened to go to London and see the opening there a couple of weeks ago. I think it was very good. Did you see it in New York?
I saw it in New York, and I also was in London.
Okay.
I was in London, let's see, November 2nd, I saw it in London. Yeah. It's interesting. There's so much content I felt in the musical, and it was helpful to see it a second time to try to figure out what's going on and what vantage point are the characters coming from, and I'd like to even see it a couple more times. It would help me to understand, I think. But I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So the atmosphere in under the recording is very good. But what did you know about his health situation? Did he tell you anything?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's not something I really talk about because he was so private, and really wanted privacy. So I just try to honor that, I mean, what I'll say is whatever was going on with him, it never affected how he was in the studio. I mean, he was always, it was really like he would walk into the room and you would feel his presence and you would feel his focus, but also a calmness about him, if that makes sense. Like sometimes I feel like I walk into a room or a recording studio and I feel manic or something. I mean, maybe not manic, but I feel very intense or whatever. And I just appreciated how he would walk into the room and you just felt him taking in every detail. And he was ready to work and he was focused, but he was also relaxed as he did it. It was great. And yeah, again, like whatever he was going through never affected that at all. He was really a strong person. It was amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, it is an amazing album, I think, and an amazing way to pass away as well, because I came from Kilkenny now, listening to an economist. There was an economy festival there. Me and Terje Reilstad in this house visited, and there was an economist talking about failures and imperfection as good things, even in the economy, to start make new things and better things. But all his examples was from the music world. It was about Keith Jarrett coming to Cologne and having to play on a piano that didn't work, but it was the best concert and even the best record he made.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Brian Eno and David Bowie's collaboration on the Berlin trilogy and outside. And I had a specific story about Lodger and where Brian Eno and David Bowie lets the band play the instrument they can't play.
Wow.
So Carlos Alomar was put on drums, and he was pissed off. And Adrian Belew was flown in to play the guitar. He played the guitar, but he didn't know anything about the song. He just saw these musicians, pissed off musicians, and they started playing, and he was told, just play something.
Yeah.
And that was Boys Keep Swinging.
Wow. That's a great
But
story.
it's another thing with Blackstar that feels very planned. It feels like it's.
Well, I think part of that is as I've come to know more about his career now. That
Did you know any? What did you know about David Bowie before?
I mean, basically, Let's Dance was part of the soundtrack of my youth.
Don't mention it.
And then, of course, his collaboration with Pat Metheny. And then I was generally aware of some of his hits, and that's it. And at a certain point during the fall, before we started recording, I thought I should really check out his discography, so I'm really prepared. And I started listening, to Space Oddity and Changes and stuff like that, and I emailed him. I said, well, I think I was listening to it, and I started to think, he's hiring us because he wants us to do what we do. And we're playing this, kind of exploring this intersection of electronica music and improvisation. And he's not hiring me to, do something he's already done. So I actually just kind of stopped. But then I emailed him. I said, I'm checking out blah, blah, blah. And he kind of wrote back. He said, yeah, that's old stuff. I'm into some different stuff now. So I felt like that was an affirmation for me of okay, I'm just going to wait. So it wasn't until we finished Blackstar that I really started looking back on his career and exploring his discography.
Yeah, I see. And Blackstar, this specific song.
Oh, you know what I was going to say before we talk about the song?
Yeah.
Was this is what I was going to say too, is that I think what's different for him with this record was that he sent me the song, he sent me demo versions of every song, almost, except for Dollar Days, which we just learned in the studio, and Sue. But everything else, he did a home studio kind of version that, I could listen to and think about, and I added, horns and orchestrated things, some horn lines, and we all had a chance to digest it. And then when we recorded, we were ready to go. And I think that's a difference from earlier albums where he was writing while they were in the studio. So I think that's one difference, and might speak to what you mentioned, where it feels like there's this real thing.
And on these demos, he plays a lot of the instruments himself. So
Yeah. He had a drum machine, and synth bass and guitar, and him singing, and sometimes a couple saxophones, a couple times it was synth horns. But with the song Blackstar, for example, I remember one of the first reviews was saying, Mark Giuliano, the drummer, Mark Giuliano's drum beat is otherworldly, and it's this unbelievable hybrid of whatever. And Mark was laughing because he's like, I was just trying to basically play what was on David's demo. You know what I mean? And then the first review, Rolling Stone France, it's it's this great, innovation, And Mark is an amazing drummer, but we're all kind of laughing because it really kind of came from David, that drum beat on Blackstar.
And Blackstar, was it 2 songs or was it not?
Yeah, it was one song. Well, I looked over the email the other day that he sent, and basically he said, it's 2 parts, and we're going to connect the 2 parts with a free improvisational section, which we'll do in the studio. So that was it, and that's what you hear, and it was really his vision. I mean, I think we did it in a day or 2 days. We usually did 2 songs a day. So we started with part 1. That was another thing about that song. It came in the last period of recording in March, and he sent it to me the day before we recorded. So we didn't have a lot of time to.
That was one of the last.
It was in the last period of 4 or 5 days that we recorded, So we played the first half, and then we stopped. And then we started, and we just improvised together. And then there's that part with the descending chorus. Sister Rose, that's all part 2 from there to the end. But it's just a great song. I mean, to conceive of that, the vision of that song, I don't know, it's really, really wonderful.
Yeah, it's not to believe it comes from the pop cultural world, in fact.
Well, I mean, that's something that's so unique about him he's just such a, I guess, something I take away from that experience is seeing somebody who at 68 years old at that time, who was just fearless in realizing his artistic vision, you know, and just going for it. And he even said to me a couple different times when we were working together, like, don't worry about what happens, let's just have fun, let's just see what happens. And he could not have been more inviting for our input musically, anything we wanted to try, like all that horn section stuff I just kind of came up with, and he was, you know, it was just so great. And just to see him really pushing. And that, I think that's why he chose us to do it, because that's kind of what we do sort of in our genre. Anyway.
But it is very precise on himself, his work, his death, everything. Feels like it is planned, every inch of it, in fact, and it's not. That is. But I have a favorite. It's the song number 2, one of my favorites on the Blackstar. Should we try that? Kind of crescendo, and there's a sneeze as well in it.
Oh, so I didn't know that.
In one of the refrains, but for me this is his humorous way of giving names to life. It's a pity she was a whore.
Yeah. There's a first lyric where he says, and she punched me like a dude.
Yeah,
so in English, dude, you know, it's like, guy, like a dude, you know. She punched me like a dude. So we used to always laugh about that. This is another one that was like the very first take. And it was, I remember feeling, as the track goes on, I could feel all of us were kind of really pushing. Like I was playing so hard on the saxophone. And Mark said his arm was like, and we thought, oh, this is, you know, it's just the first take. We're just getting going. And then he was like, yeah, he was so into it. We're like, oh, because I thought he's going to be more refined or whatever. But I guess he liked that raw energy of it. And that's a great song.
Yeah, it's a big favorite. Every song is very good. But there are, this song and Sue,
Yeah.
they were made in 2 versions. Both?
Yeah.
Both with Maria Schneider?
Well, the first version of this
Yeah.
that appeared on the B-side of the Maria version of Sue, that's all David at home.
Okay.
Yeah. So what he sent me as a demo ended up, if you guys have heard it, it's the other version of 'Tis a Pity. That's all David. saxophone and the synth stuff. It's all him.
I see. But there are 7 tracks on Blackstar. There is a rumor there are more tracks, and 3 of them already came out with the cast album from the Lazarus
Yes.
ensemble. But are there even more than these 3?
Yeah, there are. I remember the last time I saw him. I went to his place and listened to this for the first time, Blackstar, and then I heard some extra songs. Okay, and there's definitely one that I haven't that hasn't come out yet, but I don't know. I don't know if he wanted it to come out. And there's another one too that I really liked, but I don't know if they finished the post-production. I don't know if he did a final vocal or you know what I mean. I don't have any insight as to how it ended up. But there was definitely a couple more that all of us in the band really thought were great songs. But and there was other stuff too that we recorded. We recorded a lot. It's more, I think, a question of was it all finished on their end, with the vocals and stuff. Yeah. But he was in a really, as you were alluding to earlier, in a very, very productive, very creative phase, doing this music, writing for Lazarus, and then, when Blackstar came out, he was going to start to write new music for us to record, to do more. So he was in a very creative period.
Yeah, but that reminds me about the 11th of January. When everybody was listening to another tune here, Girl Loves Me, with this refrain, where the fuck did Monday go? And a kind of feeling that it all suited too well, in a way.
Yeah.
Was it expected?
I mean, I was, just really, how would I say that? I mean, it was just really, 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 really sad. It was just so sad. I mean, yeah, I was just really sad. I don't know. It was just really, because he's a really vibrant person, And again, despite whatever he was going through health-wise, he was so present and so vibrant, and it's really just so sad. And he's got a teenage daughter. It's got to be really tough for her, and obviously other family and stuff. And that's one thing that really made an impression on me was, I knew him for about 1.5 years, but I got to know a couple people who'd worked with him for many years, like who'd been with him since the Berlin era. What's that, 30 years or something, 40 years? And to see how deeply they cared for him was really, it was beautiful. And also, I think, a testament to the kind of person he was, that these folks were so close to him for so many years, and they just absolutely loved him. And he was just always generous, generous in spirit when he was with you, talking and just, super funny and just really engaging and very, he was very un-diva-like, if that makes sense.
But how do you look at Blackstar now? Do you think it is a kind of very planned requiem that... can you see it? Did you see it clearer yourself?
It's interesting. I mean, honestly, when it first came out, I was listening to it and I was just like freaking out because it sounded so great. I was like, this is awesome. I can't believe this happened, Because part of it was that we couldn't talk about it when we were recording. So it was like we were entering into this fantasy land of work that was amazing, but we couldn't tell our friends about it. So finally we could, and it was like, and it's just amazing. But I have to say, when he passed away, it was like, I couldn't really listen to the record for a long time because it was too painful for me, man, emotionally. And I started to listen. Then I've listened to it, and then I stop, and then I listen, I stop. I still have this kind of back and forth relationship with it, depending on how much I feel like I can handle listening to it. And I know, people have said that this was like his, farewell thing and everything. And I get it. And obviously, when you listen to the themes on the record, there's so much mortality, right? Is that the word? There's so much that's a heavy theme. And I totally recognize that, and I get it. But at the same point, last time I talked to him, okay, we're going to maybe record in January, and blah blah blah. Like he was, there was still so much that he had to offer, and he was still thinking about making more music. So I guess I don't feel like, okay, this was planned. I guess I feel like it was where he was at the time, and that's the music he wrote, but he was still going to write music and was still writing music. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I hope that makes sense. That's not very clear, but that's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Anybody who wants to ask questions, that is possible, of course. I think we got you for 10 more minutes in our Kverulantkathedral, and then you have to go to the sound check, I think. But how does it feel to be to be mentioned in the rock history and music history alongside Brian Eno, Nile Rodgers, Iggy Pop, Lou Reed?
Wow, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think when it was happening, I guess I knew that would be a possibility, but I didn't want to think about it. I just wanted to think about what we were doing, and I wanted the music to be the best it could be, and I didn't want to think about anything like that. And then, when he passed away, it just felt like it was so hard. I just felt so sad and was just, consumed with just that and not the bigger picture, I guess, but to get to your question, I mean, I think now that some more time has passed, I feel like, I feel proud to be part of that legacy, and that I know that Blackstar is a great record, and it's amazing. I feel so grateful that, and I'm proud of the band that I felt like we really played great on it, and it's hard, I guess what's the word? It's an honor to be a part of it. It's a privilege to be associated with it, because I think it's a great work of art, and yeah, I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but it was, it's just, I guess I still don't think about that a lot, because I don't want to become conceited. But yeah, I think it is one of the great records, and I'm proud to be a part of it, really.
Yeah, and do you think it might even be one of the more important records in rock history? Because this is now Leonard Cohen died as well, and
yes.
We have come to this point now where rock and roll and pop culture, where the best ones in there have become old,
Yeah.
and they are dying, and I always thought that what they are making when they are old would give us an answer to if this kind of music will stay on, and will David Bowie be the Johann Sebastian Bach 250 years into the future? I think this record is a kind of statement that makes that possible, in fact.
I agree. I mean, I think he also, the way that we are integrated with him on that record, the interplay, I think that, and the environment that he created, the songs that he created, and in having us do what we do within that context with him, I think that is it's kind of a visionary thing of where this hybrid kind of thing could go, you know, in terms of having this really musical thing happen between, you know, artists of kind of different genres, but it fits really well, because we're not a jazz band in the traditional sense, you know, although we come from that, but we're also really in rock and electronica music, and just, I don't know, I think it's like he's showing the way, that record, you know, like a lot of people could follow that and make some interesting music.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Anybody in the audience wants to ask Donny McCaslin a question before he's leaving for sound check? I think we have maybe a microphone. Kim har lyst til å ta den mikrofonen rundt, så lydmannen slipper å gjøre det. Ja, du klarer begge deler, kanskje.
Hello. Hi. This wasn't really expected, but I have two questions. I will take the technical one first. We heard a track, and it was this thing between keyboards and saxophone, and you used a technical word to describe that. What was that? I didn't really catch it.
Oh,
do you remember?
I was trying to describe, I think I said...
How the tension, right?
Yeah, the tension. So it's basically, I think I used the word undulating, where it's, you know, we're just kind of this back, like the time, you know, no, that's Sue. But the time is, you feel the pulse, and we're kind of pushing and pulling against the pulse and also each other in a non-metric way. It's more just feeling, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I'm making an assumption now. Maybe everyone has the same picture as me, but you went in the studio with like one of the biggest rock stars ever. Did you ever feel like he was one? Because even he says even in his songs that he isn't. So, and I have a feeling that you didn't even feel that this was only a great musician which you were making music with, or do you get where I want this?
Well, I think it's hard to. It was hard for me to not think that, like, whoa, this is David Bowie. Right. That's Iman. This is David. You know, like, you know, there's those I mean, I was really comfortable, but I think because I was also kind of in charge of the band and stuff, I felt like I wanted to make sure that everything was perfect, and I wanted him to be happy. So I think it was still, yeah, it was a little bit of both. I mean, it was nothing on his side, because he was very humble and, you know, super cool. I think I was maybe a little, you know, it's hard for me to escape the fact that it's David Bowie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was super cool about it. I mean, he couldn't have done more to make all of us feel comfortable. It's really cool. He was really cool. Sure.
Thanks.
Maybe a comment from my side. I remember when he made Aladdin Sign, that made me, you know, start loving saxophone. And this record again, Blackstar, kind of gave me some of the same feeling. Any thoughts around that?
You know, I don't know Aladdin Sane well enough to give you a good comparison. I'd have to, you know, that's one that I haven't really checked out yet. I've been focused on a few others, but I'll get back to you.
You know, on Aladdin Sane, there was the song Time. Time, she flexes like a whore, falls wanking to the floor.
Oh, okay.
You have to remember that one. Anyone else?
Did the experience with the Blackstar change the way you played in your band that you're going to play tonight, or the way you look at music?
I think so. I think it, in some ways, it was really affirming to feel like you can go for realizing your musical vision in an uncompromising way, and have it. Well, I don't know if that's really putting it right. I think it was just seeing him being so in the art of it. You know, he was so his mind and the way he was working on the lyrics, he was just so focused on realizing his vision. And not something that I've been doing my whole life, but just to see it happen with somebody of that level of fame and that wide of a reach, but that it was really about the art for him. That was really affirming, you know, as a younger artist, to see that. And I think it also, the way I approached improvising on that record was to not be like a jazz guy more, but just let my playing be born out of his songs and how I perceived his songs. So I really worked hard to know the songs so that I would feel free to really express myself. And again, that's something I've done for a while, but to have it work out so well was really affirming to me. And I think it's helped me to kind of let go a little bit of feeling like I have to play a certain way, this style, but more I just need to play music and be really present in the moment when I'm playing and let the music unfold the way that feels authentic to me, and not trying to feel like I should impress somebody with some virtuosity or something like that, you know. Something I think that, and it also, yeah, it gives me, and I think the whole experience, it gives me a little more confidence, you know, as a band leader. When you're on the road, sometimes you're feeling tired and, oh, is this sounding good? But then I realize, like, oh no, I know it sounds good because I had this experience and I made this record and it's amazing and I'm going to do my thing. You know, it gives me that extra jolt sometimes that I need when I'm away from my family and I'm tired and all that stuff. So, yeah, definitely a change for the better. I mean, you know, very positive, continues to inspire me, for sure. Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much for coming to Stavanger and KK.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you.
good luck with your work to come.
Thank you.
And with the concert tonight.
Thank you.
8 o'clock, Spor 5. Be there. It's a great record, probably a great concert.
If anybody, and of course, shameless self-promotion, but if you want records, I have some here, if you're interested. Yeah.
You have the time?
Yeah, I have a few minutes because the guys are setting up. So the electronics and stuff. I definitely have a few minutes. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.